So with the Oscar nominations that just came out recently, I'm just looking at the list like, I don't know how this movie didn't get a single award. So Just Mercy is a movie directed by Destin Cretton, and it's actually based on a book written by Bryan Stevenson, who is the lead of this story, and it stars Michael B. Jordan as Bryan Stevenson, a recent graduate of Harvard Law, and instead of taking the prestigious jobs that have been offered to him, he decides to go to Alabama and, like Angel from The Angel Show, help the helpless. He gives representation to those that can't afford proper representation or haven't been afforded proper representation. And one of his first cases is a black man named Walter McMillan, who was convicted in 1987 for the murder of an 18-year-old white girl, and a murder that Walter McMillan claims that he didn't commit. And so while investigating Walter's case, Bryan realizes that there's a lot of strange evidence or lack thereof in Walter's conviction story. And while trying to fight for and prove the innocence of Walter McMillan, Bryan Stevenson realizes there's a lot of corrupt forces in the Monroeville, Alabama city government that is trying to actively keep Walter in jail. And so as a result, Bryan comes across racism and a lot of political upheaval as he tries to free this man. And yeah, like I mentioned, this movie is based on the book and is based on the actual real life of Bryan Stevenson as he worked tirelessly to free Walter McMillan and a bunch of other people wrongly convicted on death row. And while you're watching this movie, you kind of realize as everything that's unfolding, all the political upheaval and all the racism that Michael B. Jordan's character goes through, you're just like, damn. And the whole time while watching this movie, I was like, what year is this movie taking place? Only to realize that this movie is taking place in the late 80s and early 90s, and just like, god damn, things really haven't changed that much in this society. All the stuff that Bryan goes through, you would think this movie takes place in the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, but it's like, no. While I was a kid watching Power Rangers, Bryan Stevenson was down south in Alabama fighting racism and fighting for the life of innocent black men. And so when you think about it from that perspective, this movie pisses you off. And that's one of the feelings that I felt while watching this movie. Like, this movie had me pissed off. This movie had me laughing because there were a lot of funny moments in this movie. This movie had me smiling because, again, this movie's based on a true story. So it's not a spoiler to say that Walter McMillan does end up free by the end. But overall, this movie had me pissed off. And a lot of that had to do with not only just the story and how it is based on a true story, but the performances in this movie were incredible. Michael B. Jordan has proven himself to be a force in the acting world. And not to say that he hasn't before, but I find the role choices that he's been having throughout his career are really interesting. From playing Adonis Creed to Killmonger to his role in Chronicle, him playing Johnny Storm in The Human Torch, which even though that movie was terrible, he wasn't terrible in it. And now playing Bryan Stevenson, like, I feel like he's had a very diverse set of roles. And this role is very different than all the other roles, because at least the one thing that all the other roles that Michael B. Jordan has had in common, he's been pretty confident, he's been assertive, he's been sure of himself, even playing Oscar Grant in Fruitvale Station. But in this role, you saw him struggle a little bit. You saw him be more vulnerable than any other role that you've seen him in. And again, he did a great job in this role. And somebody else that did a great job, and no, you shouldn't be surprised by this, is Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx playing Walter McMillan, especially when you look at them side by side, like, Jamie Foxx killed this role. And I'm surprised he didn't get an Oscar nomination for this movie. And what I'm really surprised at is Tim Blake Nelson didn't get an Oscar nomination for this movie. Tim Blake Nelson is an awesome character actor, and he just did an awesome stint as Looking Glass in Watchmen. And for him to come back and do this role, when you look at the actual man that he portrayed, like, he killed it. I don't know how he didn't get an Oscar nomination for this role. And another person that surprised me was Brie Larson. Brie Larson was good in this movie too. Like, considering how much I disliked Brie Larson playing the role of Captain Marvel and how I felt like she was uncharismatic and very dry as Carol Danvers, seeing her in this movie, it goes to show, it's like, no, she is a good actress. I just don't think the Captain Marvel role is good for her. But in this, like, I was like, wow, I really like Brie Larson in this role. But yeah, I feel like for this whole review, I'm just gonna gush about the performances, because the performances are what made this movie awesome. And not to say the directing wasn't good. Like, Destin Cretton was a great director, and part of being a great director is pulling out great performances from your actors. And I think he did that in spades, because there were so many great performances in this movie. You had O'Shea Jackson in this movie, and even though he didn't have a major role in this movie, he definitely brought the comedy and brought smiles and this intense drama. And that was something that was welcome. It was something that was great, and he was great in it. And somebody that was also great, and that again, I keep saying this, should have gotten an Oscar nomination, was Rob Morgan. Most people know Rob Morgan as Turk Barrick from the Defenders Netflix Disney universe. Like, everybody loves Turk Barrick. Turk Barrick is my brother's favorite character. But in this movie, he wasn't the jokey, cool Turk Barrick. In this movie, he plays a character that is on death row. And while he did commit a crime, you will feel completely heartbroken over this character. And I'm not going to say unspoil what it is, but that character should not have been on death row. His story and the whole journey with this character was completely heartbreaking. And again, because it's based on a true story, it pisses you off. This whole movie, while I was watching, while I walked out of this movie, I was just like, man, fuck the American justice system, because it goes to show that there's a two-tier justice system. They treat you differently even if you're white and poor than if you're black and poor. Hell, even if you're black and rich and white and poor, they treat you differently. And granted, that's not to say that there aren't black people that don't get off in the American justice systems. You have to be rich to basically get off. Like, essentially, if you got money or you have a lot of connections, then the American justice system works beautifully for you. But it's like, if you're black, and especially if you're black and poor, then the American justice system was not designed for you. Like, there's a line in this movie where one of the characters, and I'm not going to say who it is, but one of the characters is on death row and he claims he didn't do it, but the judge said, I knew you were guilty just by looking at you. And again, this was a black character. And knowing that somebody said that, knowing that a judge said that, when you do your research, and also once it gets to the end of the movie, you find out that is actually something that a judge said to a black man. It again pisses you off, and you're just like, what the fuck is this justice system? How is this allowed? How is this allowed to continue? How is this America? And the thing that really gets you while watching this movie, and the thing that really works your nerves, is even as I'm recording this video, there are people right now in jail on death row, or just in jail period, for crimes they didn't commit. And so this stuff is still happening to this day. And so you're like, yeah, there are some cases that end up being exonerated. There are still people right now in jail that the system didn't work for them. There are innocent people that have been executed in jail for crimes they didn't commit. They shouldn't even be in jail, let alone dead. And so we need to get rid of the death penalty in this country. And I granted, I've had this belief long before this movie, but this movie really solidifies and justifies my belief that so long as there's one innocent person on death row, there should not be a death penalty in this country. And Walter McMillan being one of them, an innocent man that was on death row for 6 years. The thing that also pisses you off is ultimately the person that did commit the crime, you have a man that committed murder that's walking around scot-free. And the Monroeville, Alabama justice system, the police department, does not care. But overall, like I said, this movie was very good. The performances were incredible. There's this one scene in particular that I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to say who it is. It involves a death. And that scene was very uncomfortable to watch. Like I say all the time, that the things that I love in my movie and fiction and stuff like that is blood, sex, gore, and magic. So of course I'm not squeamish when it comes to death. I love Mortal Kombat games, the ripping off the head and you see the spine dangling from the neck, like all that stuff I love. But this death scene, like, it was tough. And I knew it was fiction, it's a movie, but I was just like, God damn, this was uncomfortable to watch. And that was Destin Daniel Cretton's point. He wanted you to be uncomfortable watching this scene. I think he accomplished that very well. Like, that was a great scene from a filmmaking standpoint. But overall, I would say Just Mercy is a definite blockbuster. I would definitely buy this movie on Blu-ray. And I'm trying to figure out, considering this movie did come out on Christmas Day in a limited release, then it was a nationwide release this weekend. I'm like, is this considered a 2019 movie or a 2020 movie? If this is a 2019 movie, you know what? I'm gonna say it's a 2019 movie. I think this is probably gonna go in my top 3. But have you guys seen Just Mercy? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.